how to get qualified. Yes, there is a how-to when it comes to qualification, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. And I want to tell you where this subject came from. I'm recording this in the fall of 2024. By the time you all hear this episode, the 2024 presidential election will have already occurred. Now, whether or not we have an outcome and know who won yet, the jury is out on that one. But the election has occurred. If you are casting a ballot, you already cast your ballot. And this subject came up a lot when Kamala Harris, who as of this recording is the current vice president of the United States of America, and when she was inserted, she was not elected, but inserted to be the Democratic nominee after Joe Biden, quote unquote, dropped out. We know he didn't drop out. He got pushed out by the Democratic Party after his poor performance at a debate between he and former President Donald Trump. Again, I'm saying all this before the election happened. When he got pushed out, Kamala was inserted as the new candidate. And of course, many people rightly questioned this. They questioned this because she did not win the nomination. Now, some people say, well, she was on the ticket with Biden. Yes, I get it. But had there been an open primary, I don't think Kamala Harris would have won. I think she would have gotten beaten by other Democratic candidates. But anyway, she got inserted into this spot. And many people were questioning her, just her status as how she got put in. And some people started to defend her by talking about her quote unquote qualifications. Okay, and this episode is not about that specifically, but I thought of this term and decided I was going to dig into this term because many people started arguing about it. And most of the time, people were defending her by talking about her qualifications, what she had done already, where she had been, her resume, which is all political, all the things she's been doing politically over the last, 30 plus years, however long she's been in the game. And this is something that I also notice when it comes to other topics, other people, and other subjects, that when someone's looking to discredit another person, one of the first things they do is start questioning that individual's quote unquote qualifications for speaking about a certain subject. For example, someone who's not a doctor, you question what a doctor says. Somebody may say, well, you're not a doctor. You didn't go to medical school. You haven't published any thoughts or any findings in any peer-reviewed journals. So who are you to question a doctor? All right. We heard a whole lot of that during the COVID scamdemic a few years ago. Some of you may have been either users of that, you are culprits of using that false framing, or you had people use that framing against you. And on other subjects, science is a good one. Academics is another one. Business is another one. Sports is another one, where people will try to discredit anything you say by simply saying, well, you don't have XYZ qualification, therefore you can't talk about a thing. You notice that people usually only say this when they disagree with you. So if, let's say LeBron James makes some statement about basketball and I disagree with the statement, somebody may come out and say, well, you don't have LeBron James's career or resume, Dre, so you are not qualified to say, you're not qualified to go against it. But had I come out and agreed with LeBron, nobody would come out and say, well, Dre, you don't have LeBron's resume, therefore you're unqualified to agree with him. See, people only use it when they disagree with you. So that's one thing you should notice up front, is that people only throw the qualification thing at you when they don't like what you say. But if they agree with what you say, you can be just as unqualified, but everybody's all right with it. All right, so keep that one in mind and look out for that one moving forward. Also look out for that, making sure you're not doing it. Right? Because I know a lot of people who do this. Again, they only use it on one side, but they don't use it on the other side. So today I'm going to help you understand how qualification really works and how you can use it in conversation if someone tries to throw one of these at you. And also just to make sure all of you are checking yourself, make sure you stop using this false framing on other people just because you disagree with them. Point number one, today's topic once again is how to get qualified. And again, qualified is in quotation marks. Number one, understand that qualification is subjective. All qualifications are subjective. Definition of subjective is a quality or accomplishment that makes someone suitable for a particular job or activity. The key word in that definition is suitable. Suitable is a relative term. It's an adjective. Adjectives are modifiers. These words are used based on the perspective of the person who is using the word. Does everyone understand that? So what I consider to be suitable for you to, let's say this is a suitable or appropriate is another term that fits this. If I say this is suitable for you to wear to work, and you say it's not suitable for me to wear to work, which one of us is right? Which one of us is wrong? Well, neither. We just have different perspectives. See, that's the issue with this word suitable, and is the issue with the word qualified, because there is no hard black and white definition of what is qualified and what is not qualified. And even those that are written down and documented were created by human beings. So it's all subjective. I remember when I was in school, I'm talking about like K through, let's say, even 12th grade, maybe not 12th grade, but let's say through 8th grade. My mom was a pretty solid disciplinarian when it came to my sister and myself. And she would often say something like, well, you can't wear certain clothes that she deemed were unappropriate. That was the word she would use, unappropriate for school. All right, is that appropriate for school or is it not appropriate? She would use that word all the time. And my mom's a system person. She's a ladder climber. I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just saying it as a description. She's a ladder climber, and she's an education person. She's through the education system, works in the education system. And in that system, a lot of things are about quote unquote qualifications, what is suitable and what is appropriate. I don't operate in that world, but I understand why people who do operate in that world think this way. So my mom would use these terms all the time. There is no right or wrong way generally to use an adjective. So calling something suitable, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Doesn't mean everybody has to agree at the same time. So I could watch a football game and I could say that quarterback had a good game. You can watch the same game and say that quarterback had a terrible game. And again, it's just based on perspective. Neither of us is right or wrong. It's just a matter of opinion. So qualification, ladies and gentlemen, is an opinion, not a fact. Let me take a sip of water while you digest that point. Qualification is an opinion, not a fact. Now, again, there are some places where the qualifications are listed. For example, if I'm hiring someone for a job, I can say, to be qualified for this job, you need 5 years of experience. So therefore, if you have 3 years of experience, you are unqualified. For my particular job, I am correct. Factually, you're unqualified because this is what I'm holding, the standard I'm holding you to. But does that mean you're unqualified to ever get that job anywhere in the world? No, because other people may say, well, 2 years of experience is enough. So you're not qualified here, but you are qualified there. So again, are you qualified or not? In a vacuum, you're as qualified as you say you are. But in my space, you're not. And in their space, you are. You get that? So that's why it's an opinion, not a fact, because you can be qualified over here and unqualified over there with the exact same resume that you had yesterday. Does everybody understand this? The only time qualification is a fact is when the qualifications are clearly stated and they are objectively measured. Even then, again, someone can have a different set of qualifications for the exact same role. So there is no such thing as an objective qualification. There is no such thing. Does everybody understand this? So anytime you or anyone else questions another person by questioning their qualifications, what you're really saying is that you don't agree that this person's opinion is valid, and you have a right to that perspective. But you can't, well, you can say that another person is not qualified, but it's not a fact. It's just an opinion, and that's fine. People can have a difference of opinion. How about you just leave it at that and say it's a difference of opinion instead of questioning their qualifications? See, questioning qualifications it's kind of a red herring. What it is you're opening up a different conversation and maybe throwing people off the course of just saying, well, I don't agree with your opinion. Because if you say you don't agree with another person's opinion, then you're opening the conversation up to a back and forth dialogue. I have this opinion, you have that opinion. Let's debate opinions and see which opinion makes more sense. If you can, either of you can even come to that conclusion. But if you question someone's qualification, what you're doing is attacking the person rather than attacking the point. And this is the reason why it's such a common thing for people to do, because people tend to do this, attack the person rather than the point, when they are triggered emotionally or just mentally by someone disagreeing with a certain perspective. So if you're a supporter of Kamala Harris, for example, and again, I'm recording this before the election, you're a supporter of Kamala Harris and someone comes out and starts challenging her even position as being the nominee, you may start defending and talking about her qualifications rather than the actual point that the other person is making, unless that person said that she's not qualified. And again, they could say she's not qualified because you didn't win the nomination. That's a legit point. It's a legit perspective. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's a legit perspective. Debate the perspective rather than debating the person. So if you say, well, she's qualified because the only thing you could say that would factually be accurate is that she was on the ticket. Therefore, that person at the top of the ticket gets out. The person next in spot gets that spot. Technically, you could say that, but also you could say this could be an open primary. All right, so I'm just giving you an example here. So if I'm a strength and conditioning coach and I have a program for one of my athletes to train with, I'm telling them exactly how to train. The athletes parents may have a different idea of what that player should be doing. So let's say I'm training some 15-year-old kid who wants to make it to the NFL. I have an idea what the player should do, but his mom and dad don't like my plan, and they have a different idea what the player should do. Now, I may believe that that parent who has never been a strength and conditioning coach, they just watch, they played basketball maybe in high school, they've been watching basketball all their lives, and they raised their kid to be football, and they raised their kid to be a football player, and now they're questioning what I'm doing because they believe that they know better. I could believe that mom and dad are unqualified to question what I'm doing because I have a lot more experience than them. I have more technical knowledge than them, and I've been doing this longer than them, and I got a track record of people who I've helped, whereas the parents have none of those things. I can believe that, and I can back it up, and I have supporting evidence. Yet, it's still my opinion. Again, just because you believe it, just because you can back it up with supporting evidence does not make it a fact. It just makes an opinion. Now, opinions should be backed up with reasoning, and that's my reason. My reasoning is I've been doing this for 20 years. My reasoning is I've trained a whole bunch of players like your son. My reasoning is I know the strength and conditioning world a lot better than both mom and dad put together. All right, those are my reasonings. It is still an opinion that my approach is better than the parents' idea for an approach. Again, you have a right to an opinion. Just understand that it is indeed an opinion. Even if you have a strong reason for your opinion, it is still an opinion. It's not a fact. Okay, you being a strength and conditioning coach does not make everything that you say unchallengeable, even by someone who has zero of your experience. You having 20 years working in the industry does not make your opinion unchallengeable by someone who has 0 years of experience in that same space. I'll give you another example. I told you all the story of when my son was born. Let me tell you the episode that was where I trashed the American medical system. And in case you missed this episode, you can go catch it, episode number 2338. There will be future episodes where I continue to trash the American medical system. But I told you the story of when my son was born. And long story short, my son was born at home. It was a home birth. It was a planned home birth. We took him to the hospital only because he had some meconium and we wanted to make sure he hadn't ingested it into his lungs. And that led to this long, arduous process over at the hospital where again, long story short, at some point I end up arguing face-to-face with a doctor, a female doctor. She was relatively young, probably in her early 30s, at least it appeared to me. And no, not that long out of medical school. And she seemed to have her ego out in front. And my ego was definitely out in front because I wasn't there under any other reason. I was there to protect my newborn child. And at some point, she started to use her doctor frame or her background frame, tried to use it against me to basically overrule what I said was going to happen and what was not going to happen. And there was no way this was going to work. And she was basically saying, well, I'm a doctor. I have this background. I know this. And she had, let's say this woman was 33 years of age. Who knows? She probably has 10 years of medical study and learning and reading books and taking classes and writing journals. And who knows what you had to do to go through medical school, because I didn't go through medical school. She had all of that in her background. And here she is talking to this guy, me, who is an entrepreneur and an athlete and written books and done podcasts. And I'm standing here in a hospital telling her what she is going to do and what she's not going to do to this baby in front of her. I can understand her incredulity on one level. On the other level, I don't think this woman was a parent because, well, first of all, it's hard to be a parent going through medical school. Secondly, had she been a parent, maybe she would have had a little bit more, let's say, understanding. Maybe empathy is the word, maybe understanding of you can't just tell a parent what you're going to do to their child without that parent pushing back. And I pushed back hard. And long story short, again, there's a longer version of this story, but long story short, everything I said was going to happen, happened. Everything I said was not going to happen, did not happen. Why is that? Well, one reason is my opinion won out. Another reason is whatever was going to be necessary for my opinion to win, I was going to do it. All right, so I was willing to go further than anybody else in that hospital to get what I wanted, whether that be a doctor, a nurse, a security guard, or anybody else. And I think any of you who's a parent, you probably can agree with that framing. It wasn't because one opinion was better than the other opinion. And her opinion was backed by much more, let's just say, quote unquote, qualification. Let's just use that word. Her opinion was backed by much more qualification than mine was. But I had the ultimate trump card of qualification, which is that's my child. So I don't give a damn what information you have, bitch. All right, that's my child. It's going to go the way that I said it's going to go. And there ain't nobody you can bring in here, whether, again, a security guard, a police officer, a judge, a doctor, or a nurse, is going to tell me what's going to happen to my child if I say it's not going to happen, period. And again, I'm bringing all this up to help you understand. Just because you have more information, background, resume than another person does not necessarily mean that what you say is going to go, depending on the situation. because we are still talking opinions here, even if you have a bunch of facts to back up why your opinion is your opinion. When you're debating opinions with another person, you still must influence and persuade them regardless of how much you think you know. Now, if you're in a situation where you can just overrule a person and ignore them, then go ahead and do what you got to do. If I go to a restaurant and I say I want that table, and the manager says, well, you can't have that table because it's reserved, I could argue all day if I want to, but if he decides he just wants to ignore me and kick me out of the restaurant, he can do that because he has the power. He can just overrule me, and that's just what it is. But when it comes to a situation like I'm at the hospital, or let's say you are at the hospital and your child is being dealt with, operated on, tended to, whatever, and you don't like what they're doing and you say don't do that, well, I think you have a stronger frame to where if you really want to push, metaphorically or literally, that things are going to go a certain way, you probably have the power to do that. Why? Because you had a conviction behind you, regardless of the fact that you have no knowledge, no background, no information on the subject at hand. Everybody follow what I'm saying here? Good. So you being a strength and conditioning coach, again, does not make, going back to our example here, does not make your points unchallengeable. Someone being a thing and not being that thing, rather, does not make everything that they say wrong. And again, since we're talking opinions, even if they're wrong, they got a right to be wrong. Because if I'm a parent and I hire a coach for a trainer for my child playing a sport, and I don't like what the trainer is doing, I don't give a damn how much you know. You're fired. All right, so you can take you and all your information and all your background, all your 20 years of resume, you're fired anyway. All right, so take that with you. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to get qualified. Number 2, if qualification matters to you, then declare yourself qualified. Any of you who is, you're big on qualification, and maybe you were rubbed a little bit the wrong way by what I alluded to in point number 1. Actually, I didn't allude to it. I said it straight up, that just because you have quote unquote qualifications, whatever you consider to be a qualification, and I just said, well, it's still an opinion, and maybe you feel like that invalidates some of your qualifications. Well, shit, that ain't my business. That's your problem. But if qualification matters to you, just declare yourself qualified and position yourself to where people who look up to your qualifications are willing to listen to you. That's your business to position yourself in that way. In business, we literally call this positioning, putting yourself in a place where the people who want to hear what you have to say are willing to listen. And if you position yourself incorrectly and go to places where people don't give a damn about your qualifications, then that is your fault. That's how it works. No one has to listen to you because of your qualifications. No one has to respect your qualifications. Now, again, if you work in a bureaucratic environment where it is very hierarchical and bureaucratic, then the people in there got to listen. So, for example, when I was at that hospital, the nurses had to listen. There were different levels of nurses. So you had like the entry level nurse, then there was like a medium level nurse, and a higher level nurse. And again, I was dealing with these people in waves. I'm like, well, how many nurses are there? Why does they keep coming to different nurse with new information every time? And then there was a doctor who was in charge of everything. Those are levels. So the level 2 nurse has to listen to the doctor because the doctor has authority over the level 2 nurse, but none of them had any authority over me. So they're best to stay in their bubble where their qualifications matter to the other people in that bubble. But someone who's not from that bubble comes around, well, your qualifications don't mean shit to me. So you're gonna have to give me something other than your qualifications because I don't give a fuck about your qualifications. So all of you, same thing. Where do your qualifications matter? And are you positioning yourself in those places? Because if you go outside of that, then again, it's like a animal who lives in the zoo getting thrown into the jungle. All right, it might not be so easy to survive. It ain't the same environment. All right, so there are many people out there who do feel as if being qualified will help them present themselves better. Maybe it will make you more presentable and acceptable by certain audiences, and it may just give you a boost to your confidence. All of these things are true. I believe this to be true. There are people out there who do believe that certain qualifications will help them feel better and thus do better in their jobs. I knew a personal trainer in South Beach who said, I don't have qualifications, I don't have, not qualifications, but certifications or trainings or certificates or like a college degree in training. So this person was sheepish about putting themselves out there as a like trainer for hire. They rather just have people come to them on a personal level rather than putting themselves out there to where they could be scrutinized by the general public. And even though I disagreed with their stance, I understood why they had it because many people think this way. Now, the sad ending for this person is that they were not able to increase their clientele, was what they want to do, because they were too worried about being quote unquote qualified in the eyes of who? I don't know. They just made up this nameless, faceless person who was going to question their qualification. But many people do this. They talk themselves out of opportunities by thinking about what other people are going to say when nobody's saying anything about you because nobody knows who the fuck you are. All right, so some of you have this problem. I'm trying to help you out here. Okay, if it doesn't sound like it, that's what I'm doing. Qualification matters. First of all, declare yourself qualified. That will give you all these things. You'll present yourself better. You will feel more presentable and acceptable, and it will give you a boost to your confidence. And guess what all that does? Make people respect you even more simply because of the way you show up. Never and once. I'll give you all a confession here. As a basketball player, I did not have anyone train me. I was never trained as a basketball player growing up. I never had a personal trainer, never had any coach take me under their wing. My dad is like 5 feet 7 inches tall, maybe 5'8". He's not a basketball player. He didn't teach me how to play basketball. I have a sister. She was not an athlete. I don't have any brothers. Nobody taught me how to play basketball. I was self-taught how to play basketball. Yet, if you go on YouTube and you go on the Asian version of YouTube, you can see videos of me teaching other people how to play basketball that have been viewed over 100 million times. If we add up all the stuff in China, it's probably 100 million alone, just in China alone. But I can't read Mandarin, but I can see the numbers. I'm telling you that not to impress you, but to impress upon you that I have no quote unquote qualifications when it comes to training basketball players, yet I sold a whole bunch of training material to basketball players based on me declaring myself qualified. I had no training or background as a player. Never played a second of AAU basketball. Was never recruited to play on a basketball team until my sophomore year of college when I was 19 years of age. That was the first time anyone ever came to me and said, "Dre, I want you on my basketball team." First time ever. I was age 19. Yet I became a professional athlete. What was my qualification? My qualification was I decided I was going to do it, and then I took the necessary steps to make it happen. As a coach these days, I coach people. I coach people in business. I coach people in their personal lives. I coach people who are in the healthcare industry, people who are transitioning out of government jobs, people who are teaching people music, people who are accountants, people who are financial advisors, people who have food businesses, people who have brick and mortar businesses, people who are in design, graphic design business. I have all these people as coaching members, coaching clients of mine over the years, athletes, authors, speakers, entrepreneurs. I have never, ever, ever taken a course or a certification class on coaching, not one. No certifications, no courses, no events that teach you how to be a coach, or none of that bullshit. And there are people who have all of those things who ain't shit. I'm just telling you that out loud. And then you can go test them. You can go test me. All right, look at my resume. Look at their resume. Look at the people I've helped. Look at the people that they've helped. All right, you can go measure this if you wish. I'm telling you all this again, not to impress you, but to impress upon you. I declared myself qualified. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in. I didn't wait for anybody to tell me, "Oh, hey, Dre, all right, now you're qualified for the thing that you're going to do." All right, I didn't want to do that. I told you all about this climbing ladders shit in episode number 2672. I do not climb ladders. Climbing ladders means you start at level 0 and then you do things that other people tell you you must do in order to be qualified when you get to the top of the ladder. As an entrepreneur, you don't need to climb any ladders. Now, any of you works in a bureaucratic environment, government, medical, academia, corporate, maybe you got to climb the ladder as long as you want to work there. But if you step out of that space, you don't have to climb ladders anymore. Entrepreneurs do not climb ladders. All right? We take elevators to the top floor if you want to. Now, there's some entrepreneurs out there climbing ladders because unbeknownst to them, they don't need to. But you don't need to climb a ladder when you're in this space. And the things that I just explained to you, I was thinking with an entrepreneurial mindset. Even being an athlete, you're not really an entrepreneur. You're kind of like a contractor. But I declared myself. That's how I got to where I got to. As an entrepreneur, I declared myself. That's how I got to the position that I got to, why I'm in the position that I'm in now. And where I'm going in the future, guess what? I'm going to declare myself again. That's how it works. So declaring yourself qualified for the position. All right, how do you do this? All right, do exactly what I've been telling you already here in this episode. I'll give you the simple ways first, then we'll go into more complex stuff. Okay, you ready? All right, the simplest way to declare yourself qualified is to simply say that you are whatever it is you want to be qualified for, and then step forward with that belief implanted in your mind. All right, so what exactly do I mean? When I began, as I just told you this, when I began selling basketball training programs to basketball players, I had no certifications to make programs, no certifications to sell programs. If there even is one, I didn't have it. I didn't know about it, and I didn't have it. If I did know about it, I would not have gone to get it. No one had granted me the authority to teach basketball players how to play basketball. No one had done this. I've never been any type of basketball coach. Still haven't. I don't have any training certifications. Still don't. Yet I sold thousands of programs simply because I considered myself qualified based on the fact that I knew how to play basketball, I knew how to explain it, and I knew how to transfer my knowledge to other athletes. That was my qualification. And I think it worked out. So with regards to being a coach, again, I just told you this. Coaching business people, professionals, entrepreneurs. My first coaching client was someone who was watching me on a live stream on this app called Periscope back in like 2005. They left a comment and asked me if I did any coaching. Somebody left a comment while I was doing my live stream, do you offer coaching? That's what he said to me. At that time, I had never coached anyone when it came to like life stuff, business stuff. I'd never done any of that. My answer then, when he said, do you coach people? Guess what my answer was? If you've been listening to this episode, tell me what my answer was. My answer was yes. I coach people. Just send me an email. He sent me an email. I coached him. I charged him. He was my first coaching client. And as they say, the rest is history. That's how it works. That's how you declare yourself. I decided that I could coach other people. I've been doing it ever since. This is the simplest way to qualify yourself. So for those of you who have the confidence and the balls to do this, and by the way, if you want to be successful in life, you got to have some damn balls. I talked about this in episode number 2256, also episode 1796. You got to have some balls. Okay? So for those of you who have balls, all you got to do is what I just said. And you got to do nothing else. Okay? Now, I understand that some of you may not have the same mental wiring that I have. And you need something that's a bit more tangible so you can feel qualified. Okay, here's what you do. Go and get the things that you believe you must have in order to feel or be qualified. Whatever you think you need, go get it. Okay, if you think you need ABC, go get ABC. If that's what you feel like you need to do, go do it. So I told you this story. I knew a personal trainer in South Beach. I told her what she needed to do. Just start advertising herself in all the condos and apartment buildings in South Beach. Everybody in South Beach wants to be in shape. All right, South Beach is a very vain place. Miami, Florida, period. Very vain. People care about how they look. So if you're a personal trainer, you will not be at a loss for finding people who could potentially be clients, as long as they know that you exist. If she just tried to get them, she would have got them. Her retort was that she didn't have certifications, college degrees, so she felt less confident in her ability to sell herself. Long story short, she did nothing. And she was just hoping that prospects would randomly find her. And it didn't work out that well for her because of her unwillingness to declare herself qualified or unwillingness to go get the qualifications that she claimed she needed. So she said, I don't want to declare myself qualified because I don't have these things. And then she said, I'm not going to go get those things. Okay, so bitch, what you going to do? I mean, what are we doing here? All right, so if you feel you need certain things in order to feel qualified, go get them. Although I will tell you as a last note on this point, they're not going to make you any more qualified than you are right now. But if you feel like you need to go do it, go do it. All right, I just want to make sure I'm putting that on the record. So once you go get these things that make you feel quote unquote qualified and you don't feel any different, if it doesn't work to make you feel qualified, don't say that I didn't tell you. Okay, do as you please. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to get qualified. Number 3. Step up your level of competence and performance to match the qualifications that you want or have given to yourself. In other words, you need to match what you say you are. If you say you're this, you better be looking like that. If you say I can help you lose 20 pounds, you better help your client lose 20 pounds. Whatever you say you can do, do it. Simple as that. So when that guy came to me on Periscope and said, do you offer coaching? I said, yes. Now, why did I say yes so quickly? One of the reasons I said yes so quickly is because the guy, think about it, he was listening to my live stream and he had been listening a few times to me on the live stream. So clearly he was interested because he heard what I was saying and he saw how I was explaining things and said, hey, I need a guy who can help me with these very things this guy's talking about. So I already knew I was qualified because I already knew that he had test driven the product, which was me. So I said, okay, all I got to do is share with him the same stuff that I'm already sharing here, or at least the frameworks of what I'm sharing here. I know how to do that. That's why it was so easy for me to say yes. Not like I was sitting there like, I wonder what he needs help with. I knew what he needed help with because he was only asking because he heard me talking about it. So I already knew that I knew the stuff that he needed. You get it? So for you, just make sure you can deliver on whatever you're declaring yourself. That's all it is. Another way to get qualified that I didn't mention in the second point is what I just said. Do better at what you are doing, have proof that you're good at what you do, and that will help you feel more confident and allow you to project more self-assurance in what you do. Just do it well. If you do what you do well, then again, you don't need a qualification. Your qualification is the fact that you're out there doing it. All right, I didn't take a class on how to have a podcast. I didn't take a class on having this show. I call it a master class. I didn't do anything that allowed me, quote unquote, allowed me to declare this show a masterclass rather than a podcast. I just decided, no, this ain't a podcast. This is a masterclass. I just decided. And that's all you got to do. All right, any of you can do this. Again, not everybody thinks the way that I think. That's why I'm giving you these alternatives. If you want to take the long route, you can take the long route, but I'm giving you the quick route. That this is just a matter of decision. And then it's a matter of you acting on that decision by carrying yourself in a way that reflects what you're saying. If you say you're that person, you better show up like you're that person. Simple as that. When I say this show is a masterclass, that means every day when I turn this mic on, I need to deliver a masterclass. That's what I'm calling it. You follow what I'm saying here? So just have proof that you're good and put yourself out there. And you will project more self-assurance when you're actually what you say you are. All right. What reason do you have to doubt yourself? You said you're this and you're that. Well, what's the problem? Ain't no problem. They're over. See, that self-assurance, folks, that matters a lot because we got to remember that people buy your energy more than they buy your words. So I understand my friend in South Beach who didn't want to put herself out there because she didn't believe in herself. So that's why she didn't want to advertise, because she figured, well, people might question me and then they may find out that maybe I'm not that good. Oh, hey, I can't convince somebody against their will. See, if you announce that you're the best player in town or the best waitress at the restaurant, then your performance must reflect what you have declared. So in this way, you claim the title before you've proven it. There are many people who have created success by doing just this, because the claim, what it does is draws people's attention. It also draws scrutiny because people want to see, okay, you say you're the best in town. Okay, let's see. Go do something. Let's prove that you're the best in town. And maybe you're not even sure that you are, at least not yet. But by making the declaration, guess what happens? You put pressure and stress on yourself to make sure that you live up to what you said you were. And pressure and stress are good things, folks. Everybody heard me? Pressure and stress are good things. I told you in episode 2248 how the top performers use pressure. Episode number 2705, you need pressure, anxiety, and stress in your life. Why? Because they force you to perform. Episode number 3002, deadlines and pressure. Pressure forces you to do things that you would otherwise put off and do later. You want pressure. Muhammad Ali, everybody knows who he is, right? He announced that he was the greatest before he had even proven himself to be the greatest. And then everybody came to see, all right, is this guy actually great? It turned out he was actually great. I mean, in the subsequent years, he came to prove that he was exactly what he said he was. You can do the same thing. The question is, are you willing to put that pressure on yourself to declare something before you've proven it? And now you got all these people watching to see if you're telling the truth. All right, there's your opportunity. You said you want some attention, you got it. What you gonna do? All that said, folks, let's recap today's class, which is how to get qualified. Again, I first thought of this when people were debating with the upcoming election, at least as of this recording. It already happened by the time you hear this. The election, who's qualified and who's not qualified. And it got me thinking about this topic, period, of qualification. Number one, qualification is a subjective term. It is an opinion. Whether someone's qualified or not is a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of fact. You could be unqualified for one job because they say you need 5 years experience. You only have 3. But then you're perfectly qualified for the same job at a different place because they say you only need 1 year of experience. Which company is right? The one that required 5 years or one that required 1 year? Well, the answer is neither one. They just have their own opinion of what qualification means. Qualification is an opinion. It is not a fact. Number two, qualification matters to you. Just declare yourself qualified. Simple as that. It's the simplest way to get qualified is just say, I'm qualified. And start putting yourself out there without, you don't have to use the word qualified. Now, I don't even use the word qualified when I'm talking about myself. I'm discussing this topic because I know so many of you talk about this and you hear people using it. I don't have to use the word qualified to discuss myself. You want to know if I'm qualified to do what I do? Listen to the show. I'm giving it to you at no charge so you can see what I'm about. Do you believe that I know what I'm talking about? Okay, yes or no? If no, don't listen. If yes, keep listening and join Work on Your Game University. Number three, step up your level of competence and performance to match the qualification you want or have given yourself. In other words, you declare yourself whatever, and then you need to make sure your performance matches what you said. And does this create pressure? Yes. Does this create stress? Yes. May this induce anxiety in you? Yes. Guess what? All three of those things are useful to you. Why? Because they force you to do shit that you otherwise wouldn't do, or you would do really slowly if there was no pressure on you. So use these things and stop running away from them. These things force you to get as good as the person you claim yourself to be qualified to be. All right, that's what you want. All that said, folks, make sure you get my text number down below in the description here. Once we start sending that message out again, you'll be getting it straight to your phone. Also, Work on Your Game University. You want to get yourself qualified and start performing like that qualification, getting the returns of that qualification, have me as your direct coach in the process. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Link down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all